Excellent. Excellent. So here we are. Thank you so much. And just a note again, I'm holding this up to the camera. Derek Stonorov, Watch the Bear. Perfect for holiday gift giving. I know we all loved it, but your friends would love it too. I'll ask a few questions just to get things started. And then I know that a lot of us have questions for the author. So be ready with your questions. And Derek, my first question is just about the book. Can you tell us why you wanted to write a book and why you chose to write this book?
Well, number one, I like to write. That's one thing. But it's sort of going back to living in harmony with bears, and even before that, I made a film with Daniel Zatz, who those of you that have been to Brooks, in the video and the Fat Bears and everything there, Daniel was the pioneer of that. We actually had a camera at McNeil River when I was there, and they actually broadcast the signal from there via satellite. It was a whole bunch of different stuff, though. There was videos of McNeil for a long time, and then they were taken out, and the Park Service sort of picked up on that. But I've always sort of been involved in this and writing papers and things like that. So I wanted to get it all down, and I wanted people to naturally to like bears and want to protect them. That's just really important, and and manage them in much better ways than they're being managed. And that's sort of one focus point of the book. I like a good read. I like something that's easy to read. I like something that you can get through, and the people aren't going to sit down, and it's not all science. So that's sort of when I outlined the book. That's what I wanted to do, and that's why it's part memoir and part science, and that's why there's friends of mine are in it and that sort of thing. But that's really what I wanted to do. But I guess one of the things I like best is sort of getting the right word out about bears. We've got them up here in Alaska, but they haven't done too well everywhere else, and they're not doing too well worldwide for a variety of reasons. And the newest one is global warming.
Yeah,
it's going to have effect on bear populations everywhere. So in some places it might be better. They might end up with more bears at Brooks because of the Bristol Bay red salmon run. And if that crashed or something like that, they might not have quite so many. So does that sound like a good answer?
That's
why I wrote it. And that's it.
That sounds like a great answer. And one thing that we wondered about while we were reading it, and Elizabeth will take questions at the end, but one thing we wondered about while we were reading it is kind of what was your process? We just read Jeff Fair's In Wild Trust, and I know that he read Larry's diaries.
Larry's book.
Yeah. And he read Larry's diaries to write that book. So did you go back and read your diaries or read your field
book?
I
did. I've always been a big note taker, and I keep a diary every single day that I'm out there. And I had all my old data books, all my old Write in the Rain books, and everything that I'd ever finalized out. And I also had my undergraduate thesis. I had that. And a long time ago, I wrote a book about bears, and nothing ever really happened. Never really did anything. I had an agent and the whole 9 yards, and one thing led to another, and it never got published. So I had that to look back to. So I have pretty much information. I've pretty much written about everything that I've done every time that I've been out.
Sorry, I got stuck. I'm curious who you thought the audience for the book was. I mean, we are obsessed bear viewers. Are we your audience?
I wanted it to be a general audience. I wanted it to go out just as many people, as I could, and of all different levels. I didn't want it just to go to scientists, and I wanted it to go somewhere, and I wanted it to make a difference. And I think I did that by a general audience, and I tried ad nauseum to make it understandable. Went over and over and over and over again, and paragraph, sometimes I don't know how many times I rewrote them to make sure it was absolutely clear for what I wanted to do.
I think that was one of the things that we kind of marveled at while we were reading it, is that each paragraph was so tight but so rich with information.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. And just one last question for me, and then we'll open it up to the group. When you say you wanted it to make a difference, can you just say more about what you mean by that?
I want people to like bears, and I want people to want to preserve them.
Mm.
You know, that's sort of an ongoing problem right here, right where I live. And I think the only way they're going to be protected is to have a lot of advocates in different areas, and they're doing well. You know, and there's some reintroduction programs going on, but they're very small. And in Alaska, we have what 30 to 35,000 brown bears, that's supposedly, and but we also have a very big hunting season. We also have, you know, lots of extractive industries going on, which displaces bears. And one of the biggest threats, particularly here where I live, is what we call the urban interface, where people are just moving out into bear territory. And it doesn't have to be all houses. It can be snow machines, skiing, and whatnot, four-wheelers and hiking. It all has an influence, mountain bikes even. They all have an influence on brown bears. So try to make people aware of them and get people that want to put the bears first. That's Larry Allmiller's big phrase always, McNeil River is where the bears come first. And he's put in his 30 years and really tried to maintain that and make it still thought of that way.
Excellent, thank you. I have lots of other questions, but I think other people have questions too. I see 2 quick hands, 3 quick hands already. Excellent, thank you. A reminder too that you can post questions in chat, and if you do have a question, raise your hand using Zoom or in real life. And we'll go Elizabeth, and then Narit, and then Lori.
Well, because of your desire to make others more responsive and like bears and be protective, I was wondering about the choice of media, and because you've done films too, and I was wondering which form do you like to use for which purposes? In other words, I mean, we did watch your film that was really beautiful, and of course, you know, we saw some really interesting things, a lot of interesting bear behavior, difficult things as well, the 2 cubs being killed, and we actually see that more at a distance at Brooks. But and I know those are not the kinds of things that, I mean, those are the kinds of things that might make people concerned. But anyway, I was wanted you to just give your comments on that.
On the comments on exactly what?
On the choice of like
the choice of media.
Film
well,
to and what results you are expecting to get out of each one in terms of your audience and the protection of bears.
Well, I think I'm a writer much more than a photographer. I'm not really, although we did some pretty marvelous. I took a couple of film crews out in the last 2 years, and they got some pretty incredible pictures, and everything is getting better and better. And I think it's really a good way to reach out with you know, cinematography in that way. But I happen to prefer writing and just doing still photography. I may do a photography book at some point, but boy, it takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of time to do a book. So, but you know, I don't know. You see a lot of films on television about bears, and a lot of times they sort of miss the point. Everything's always really, really good. You know, it's like the Park Service at you know, Fat Bear Week at Brooks. Well, you know, some of those bears are doing pretty well, but there's hunting all around you know, Katmai National Park, and including being on the preserve, which is under the auspices of the Park Service. They manage the hunt there, and I think so many films, like even The Spy in the Woods, and I did one for French TV and stuff like it. They just keep showing the same picture over and over and over and again, that everything is fine. All the bears are dying of old age and everything. And I think in the book I had a better opportunity than I ever could have done in video to, you know, to say what's really going on. So, but there's nothing the matter with films. Sometimes I just wish they'd tell the whole story of exactly what's going on. Fat Bear Week's great. You know, there's some big fat bears, but most of the bears in the Alaska Peninsula aren't living out their lives. They're being picked off by hunters at one way or another. So it's always been a big place to hunt. And the bears have come back there. You know, they probably doubled the population here within the last probably 40 years since they started getting better protection, but they're not done yet. It's not done yet.
We are missing some of our favorite bears this year, and we're all very concerned about bears like 503 and I think it's 812. And we've been hoping and thinking, well, you know, they're just at a different fishing site. And your comment makes me a little worried.
Just
Wow.
a reminder for the group, 503 has been seen this year. So yeah.
Right.
Narit, and then Lori, then Naomi, then Bob.
Thank you for joining us. Your book was wonderful to read. We spent many hours enjoying and discussing every little paragraph, you know, in your book. And you were saying that you wanted it to be easy to read and you wanted to spread the word. I think you did it very well. So it was really very enjoyable. I was wondering all the time, maybe I got it wrong, but I got the impression, or maybe the information, that you come from a family of hunters and you grew up on this culture. And if I got it right, you're very distant now from that kind of culture, or maybe I'm wrong. I would like to know two things, if possible. One, is it first the process of you removing from the culture of hunters and going into science about it? Or was it what you did in science that led for you to actually realize to, you know, that kind of culture I don't agree with, or whatever. And the other is, if I'm right, that you went through this process, maybe you can tell a little bit about how was this process from being a hunter to maybe being someone who doesn't hunt bears anymore, or I don't know. So, yeah.
Well, I think when I finally went to college, I think, and got interested in science, I think I've always been interested in science, but I think when you start meeting scientists, you start hearing more and more about conservation and conserving things. And I think just from the people that I met, I think they sort of changed me around a little bit. My wife has an uncle that was very much of a conservationist. He was a big bird hunter for years and years, but he was very much into conservation. And I think it was just from meeting other people and seeing that there was other ways to do things, and the importance of what was going on, and the importance of trying to make some change. I think that's what did it. And, you know, it probably happened in, you know, late teens, early 20s. And I don't get me wrong, I still go hunting. I go hunting for ungulates. And the only thing that I actually hunt anymore is moose. And I'm not very successful at it. Everybody doesn't always, there's not a million moose around here, but I just believe in shooting things that you eat. And I do the same things when I go fishing. If I only catch fish to eat, I don't catch fish for sport anymore. I just get them, and we catch a lot of fish, I can tell you that, but that's what we eat all winter. So I think it's just from meeting people and being influenced from other people, and then doing a lot of reading too. But I think not just reading science, but reading conservation books, I think that made a big difference. And when I went to college, my college professors naturally were not naturally, a lot of them were just into conservation and the value of conserving different species of animals. So that's sort of how it is. That answer your question?
Yes, thank you very
Yeah.
much.
But I still like to go try to find a moose, but I'm feeling sorrier and sorrier for the moose. We're all just sort of hanging on here together, but they're managed here, and we have a really good population. We probably have more moose here right now than we've had probably in the last 30 years, just right here. But we've also eliminated most of the wolves, and the state of Alaska decided to have war on brown bears on the Kenai Peninsula it's been about 10 years, and they cut the number of brown bears, which prey on moose. There's not much question. They cut the number of brown bears just about in half. So as a result, the moose herd's taken off, and there's lots of moose around. But I think it came at a great cost to the predators. I'm not a proponent of eliminating predators. I think it's much better to have a sort of a balanced ecosystem. So
Thank you very much.
you're welcome.
Lori, then Naomi, then Bob.
Yeah, Derek, so you said you were looking for a general audience, and I think you succeeded with that. The book is easy to read. You don't get bogged down in the scientific stuff, but there's enough of it to give you information on it and keep you interested. And the stories about bears, to me, they just made the bears likable.
Thank you.
Just, individual bears that you interacted with, but just bears in general. I think you got the message across that they are not these horrible predators out to get us every chance they get. So one thing that has bugged me in reading this book, though, is what happened to Howie. Was there ever a search and rescue? Had he been sick? I mean, did he just wander off to die? Do you have any more information?
They had an extensive search for him everywhere. I was not part of the search, but they looked all over. His parents chartered airplanes, and they looked everywhere, and they never found hide nor hair of him. But I can add, this is really weird, probably about 2 or 3 years ago, my sister, who was good friends with him, found a letter which had never been opened. This sounds like it's part of a mystery book. And it was a letter from Howie, and in it was a script for a movie that he wanted to make. And in the movie, all the sites that he picked were on the Katmai coast. If you think of the Alaska Peninsula going down, there's the Chillicothe Strait, and that's sort of the Katmai coast runs all the way down to Katmai National Park. And he was a little bit to the south part, below the park. But he had lots of sites where he thought he would like to make this movie, which was maybe just a figment of his imagination, along those sites. So I always thought that he wandered away back up into the mountains. And after reading that thing, I think he wandered away along the seashore. So maybe the search never went in the right place, but he was very despondent, and he probably drowned. He either drowned or got hypothermic, but there's never been any hide nor hair of him found. He just disappeared. But he did a bunch of things before he disappeared that were not quite what you or I would have done just going through a normal day. So, and he never touched a bank account or cars or anything. He just disappeared off the face of the earth.
You mentioned that
that's all I know.
Yeah, you mentioned that he destroyed a lot of his films, and that's a loss, because you said what wonderful photography he was.
Yeah, and we just wonder why he did that. I really don't know.
Yeah. So when you think back on your early career, and do you ever say to yourself, how could I have been so naive? How could I have gone there without knowing anything about bears in Alaska and what it's like to camp in this remote wilderness, and think, gee, was I really that dumb?
Well, I never thought of myself as too dumb. It was just always just like a big adventure. It's really fun.
Oh, that's a good attitude to have.
So,
yeah, good venture.
So,
yeah. And something totally unrelated to the book. How old are brown bear cubs when they can no longer climb trees?
That's a good question. I don't know, but there's pictures of big bears up in trees too. It's not totally unknown, but you know, they're not climbers like black bears.
Right.
But I imagine they can probably get up just about anything they want. But I really don't know when they would stop. Almost all my places have been where there's no trees. So there's Alaska Peninsula, it's all tundra and alders, and there's very, very few trees. And I don't think I've ever watched Southeast. I have, and I've been to just a Pack Creek down there for a couple of weeks one time, but it wasn't around a lot of mothers and cubs, and we were always out in the estuaries. That's where we were watching bears there. So that's a really good question. I don't know.
More research.
They're pretty agile, but it's a question of whether their mom would stick around underneath the bottom of a tree or try to, you know, go up. Black bears, you see in Terry's book, if you read that, they even have special trees that they prefer to go up. And I don't think brown bears have that same thing. So.
Do you still lead trips, bear viewing trips, or is it just for photographers?
I don't. My friend Dave Backrack, who's in the book, he's given up on day trips, and he's not going to do day trips anymore this year. They're just doing boat trips, and which it's on his website, which is AK Adventures, and he's just going to do boat trips, and then he and I'll just do a trip, just the two of us, sometime in July, to a place where we still go to. But he's not doing it. But I can recommend a few companies, but I can just tell you bear viewing in Homer is huge. It is millions and millions and millions of dollars. And I don't even know how many bear viewing companies there are. And I saw that some of the questions that Stacy sent me, that, you know, whether all this viewing has an impact on the bears. And it in some areas, there's little question that's going on. There's not as many bears there as there used to be. And there's just a lots and lots and lots of people and boat traffic and airplane traffic. It's a very popular thing.
I like what you did, taking the teachers out.
Lori, I'm going to move on. We've got other hands raised, but I'll come back to you if you'd like. Naomi, and then Bob, and then Lori, we can come back to you if you'd like. And if other people have other questions, feel free to raise your hand.
Hi, Derek. I also enjoyed your book. I've been a media ranger at Katmai since 2019, so you know, blame me a lot for Fat Bear Week. But it's interesting because I mean, Fat Bear Week for us is a cheap trick to a higher purpose, to draw people in so they will care and want to do something about climate change and protect bears. But Lynn Lewis, who is a professor, did a study of bear cam viewers a few years ago, and she found that if a viewer could identify an individual bear, they were 70% more likely to support any conservation cause. So I think that the stories that you tell, the stories that we tell about individual bears and giving the whole picture helps enormously for people to connect. This year was a very tough year for family groups at Brooks. The water level was high, the salmon were late. So I think for viewers, it was very tough, but it gave us an opportunity to sort of put people in, you know, be realistic about the lives of bears. We lost a lot of cubs this year. You know, never want to hide that and be too happy about it. We want to, you know, we want people to care, but we also want them to know the reality. And, you know, I am very concerned about the people who come to Brooks and just, oh, I've got to see a bear, and they've got their cell phone and they want to get too close to a bear, and it's going to cause a mauling and a death of a bear, perhaps. But I have a question for you about hunting vis-a-vis McNeil, because McNeil is so close to the preserves and places where people hunt, and you know, are you still very concerned about the McNeil bears being taken out by hunters?
I think we're very concerned about bears in the whole area. And we know they go from one place to another. We know they go from McNeil to the preserve. We know some of them, you know, now go all the way to Brooks. I think the lucky ones go up the Kamishak River and go to Brooks that way and stay up that way, and maybe eat on the Chum Run or maybe get the Red Run. But we know there's a big migration of bears taken from ones that have been shot early in the 70s and into that in the preserve. And right now, we are very, very concerned about the way the Park Service is managing the preserve. And we're going to keep working on it. They just extended the bear season there, allowed the concessionaire to extend the bear season 1 week in the fall, earlier in the fall. And this is something, and then keep it open for a week more in the spring. And that's coming from the concessionaire. And it was just something that the Park Service was instrumental in shortening those seasons, you know, the last time that the concessionaire came up. So we're very, very active in this, and we're also trying to talk the Park Service with all its data from management or how many bears are being taken out of the preserve. It's all Fish and Game information. And the Park Service is, in letters to me, saying they're not looking at that information. They don't have it. They're not privy to the information that the Fish and Game's collecting. I don't want to take the whole meeting up with this.
No,
but we are very concerned. It's the whole thing is that whole area in there is just, the hunting should be curtailed. If you go to the McNeil Refuge, which is north of that, there's 4 bear camps right on the border. I mean, this is where these guys are coming to hunt. So it's an ongoing problem, and I think that we can all work to change it a little bit. It'd be wonderful. There's a big stretch of coast there. It's about 9 or 10 miles long. That belongs to the state, but it borders on the national park. It's on the other side. It would be great to have that included in the park. And I think we're all for it, but I think we all need sometimes we get a little frustrated trying to plug ourselves into the system.
Yeah, it could be very frustrating.
Yeah, and that's it. I'm glad there's people like you. It's so cool that study that if people see the bears on the webcams, that's just great. That's the way it is. McNeil's been naming bears forever and ever, and people recognize them and they want them to come back, and it's great. It's really cool.
Yeah, I mean, I have, you know, because I'm not wearing my hat right now, I can say how much I am concerned about how the park does not manage the preserve. I know several law enforcement rangers who quit because they weren't allowed to go and check if during hunting season, if there was illegal hunting going on. And yeah, I think the number of concessionaires is a real issue. I mean, I remember walking around in Homer, and there are all the signs, go for a day of bear viewing, and it's like you get these people who come and they've got to get their selfie with a bear, and it's very, very frustrating for us to manage those people. Yep. And keep the bears safe from them. But one of the things that I found this year was I think a lot more people who watch the bear cams are watching our educational live chats, because I can't walk 5 feet without someone wanting a selfie with me. And to me, that means that they're watching those. They're coming to Brooks as educated, concerned visitors. And so they will enjoy their experience much more, and we will get conservationists out of them because they will care more. So, I mean, I feel like that's my principal job is getting people to commit and care, as opposed to a lot of people who just have to, get a picture of a bear, or a bison in Yellowstone, or, and then, get themselves injured and the bear killed. So, thank you for your work in this area.
No, I think it's so great. I think it gets, I'll just leave it one subject, and I know that you know this already, but in the end, everybody is not going to be able to do this. It's like Hallow Bay, which is in Katmai, which is a very, very, very popular place. And
Right.
it's overrun. The preserve is overrun with people, with sport fishermen, and the access is really good right there, and people from Homer. And, you know, whether we used to be the only people that went in there. I mean, that was it. And now, you know, there's literally hundreds of people, and there's enough traffic on the lake there that all the pilots are operating it like an airport. Everybody's notifying everybody else that's coming in.
Right.
And in the end, everybody's not going to be able to go to Brooks. Everybody's not going to be able to go to the preserve or Hallow Bay. They're all places that are they're just too popular. And the other thing is, bear viewing is not for poor people. I was just looking at the prices for Emerald Earth Service, $1,600 to fly for 5 hours over it.
Well, and that's part of the problem. Not only are people who don't have the money but have the passion not able to do this,
Yeah.
but people get very entitled. You know, I spent all this money to get here, you know, where are the bears? And
Yeah.
I'm entitled to, you know, to fish, and why do I have to cut my line? And, you know, and it's quite frankly, you know, you guys, your friends, it's a mess, and the park needs to do something about it. And I'm, you know, I can just only hope that the winds will change.
Well, I'm glad there's somebody there like you. You're like a breath of fresh air. So
I want to bring in a new voice from chat. Going back, Derek, to your point about the data, a couple of people have said, how do we get the data to the people who need to see the data? Is there anything that we could do? If data is being collected, people should be able to see it.
well, you have to look through the scientific papers, and you can look through the reports of, you know, what's going on in Katmai per se. McNeil has a really good report that's done every single year. It's in detail, and they'll tell you what they saw there, and, you know, the age and sex composition of what bears are there. And it's a really good report. And I think they go all the way back to when Larry started doing it. They probably go back 30 years, and you can see the comparison and the differences that are there. But the data, the Park Service data, I'd like to see more of it. We're going to request the superintendent's report for the last 3 years, which we haven't seen. So I imagine it's there. They've got a wonder. The Park Service has a couple of super biologists that are very, very high up in the hierarchy right now, and it's going to be really interesting to see what they've done. So there's a lot going on. Plus, on the positive thing for the Park Service, they are supposed to be doing a 10-year plan for backcountry use, so which will be really interesting, because the amount of people that are going over there and the amount of boats are just, and airplanes, it's just really something.
And I'm going to turn to Bob, who's had his hand raised for a while, and then Elizabeth, and anybody else who has questions, feel free to raise your hand.
Sure.
Derek, I was going to ask you if over the years, you know, your time and your various careers in Alaska, if you've noticed any increasing level of enlightenment on the part of Alaska Department of Fish and Game about, you know, about killing bears. But it sounds to me like the U.S. Park Service might be at least as big a problem. So just to keep it nice and short, my question is, what do we do? What can we do? Not being residents of Alaska, we carry obviously no weight with Alaska DFG. And yeah, being residents of the US, we theoretically have some weight with the Park Service, but, you know, individually, not a whole lot. But what would your suggestion be with my ultimate aim would be, let's just get rid of sport hunting, period. Certainly for bears.
Well, I'm with you.
Yeah. So what do we do? It's just, as folks that live in the lower 48, any thoughts, any suggestions would really be appreciated.
Well, I think that one thing, when they're working hard, there's some good people, and that's the National Parks Conservation Association. I think the Alaska chapter of that is a really effective organization, and it's worthwhile working with. They try to work with the Park Service. The other thing is Alaska Audubon. They are super. They've got the best biologists, and they've chosen to be very effective. We're working right now with Alaska Wildlife Alliance, and they've got a really good rep. It's going to be really interesting to see how much they want to get into the preserve problems. And then Trustees is the legal fund, and they go to bat. It's called Trustees of Alaska. That's a bunch of lawyers, or I shouldn't say a bunch of lawyers. They're all lawyers, and they represent different conservation organizations, when it gets into legalese and possible lawsuits. We had one horrible thing that happened here this winter. It's the Fish and Game, and it's part of a predator deal on caribou, went in with helicopters and killed over 100 brown bears up above Dillingham. It was a big thing in the paper here. I think it was in the Washington Post too, but they spent about $400,000, and they killed over 100 bears. They killed mothers and cubs. They killed everything. They killed about 4 or 6 wolves too. And I don't know how many black bears got killed too, but it was over 100 brown bears. So, and everybody was just up in complete arms, including our past Governor Tony Knowles. But one thing that's come out of that, and those organizations that I gave you would all be in support of this, is we have a thing called the Alaska Board and Game, which pretty much regulates hunting and subsistence use in the state of Alaska. Not subsistence on state lands, not on federal lands. That's a whole different ball of wax. But to change the game board, it used to be a really good idea, but now it's all made up of a lot of professional hunters and almost all hunting, and no watchable wildlife people in it. So that's one thing, is to change that. But unfortunately, we're a very conservative state, and to be on the game board, you have to be approved by the legislature. The governor, you have to be appointed by the governor, appointed by the legislature. So everybody wants to change this. And one idea is have professional boards or something else. But the idea, if the board should reflect more watchable wildlife people, and more like people like yourself and myself that don't think that, I think killing animals for fun anymore. I think maybe it was great in 1900, but it just doesn't make sense. If you're going to eat it, that's fine if it can be managed. But we've just had the crashing of the 2 biggest caribou herds in the state, which are very important for subsistence for people in western and northern Alaska. And they've both crashed for a variety of reasons, as have some of our fish stocks and things like that. And it's time to sort of take a step backwards, and let's give everybody a chance to manage wildlife. Or if we're going to manage it, we have certain things in our Constitution that it does have to be managed for human values, but there's different human values and different ways to do things. And I think the fact that the Fish and Game went in with helicopters and killed these 100 bears, the idea being that it was going to help bring the caribou, it was in a caribou calving area, that this was going to do something. Everybody was just horrified. Lots of people were horrified that the state actually went in and did that. And maybe the change in the game board will come out, but right now, the way that wildlife management's done, it's just not as good. And I don't think the Alaska Department of Fish and Game is one half the department that it used to be. There used to be research scientists in it, and I have lots of friends that I think are super good people and super good biologists that were in it, but there's so much political pressure on it. And the Alaska Outdoor Council is such a vocal organization. They're very powerful politically. And we have certain senators in Washington that depend on votes up here. And the Alaska Outdoor Council is a very, very powerful political organization. And it's a lot of guides and hunters in it. And it's old fashioned and da-da-da. One thing that's interesting, just to show you what's happened up here with global warming, and I don't know what it's done to brown bears, the Dall sheep, they estimate, have lost 20% of their range due to, tree line moving up the sides of mountains. So in other words, we maybe have 20% less Dall sheep than we had, 15 years ago. So that's just a change. And I don't know what the change is on brown bears. I don't know. I know the alder cover on the Alaska Peninsula and at McNeil River is it's amazing how the vegetation changes have been over there. This year we didn't have that many berries, but it probably wasn't. It might have not. There's good berry years and bad berry years. So anyway, does that answer your question? There's a lot of
that is so
conservation
disheartening.
organizations. But that's the way I try to get into my sister left Alaska and lives in Pennsylvania, and that's the way she keeps in touch with everybody up here through her conservation organizations that she knows the people in. So there's a lot of good people up here trying to do stuff, and it's a tough one.
I would have thought that there would have been a progression over time of, increasing enlightenment on the part of Alaska DFG, but what you're telling me is that's just absolutely the other way. It's gone the other way. And I don't understand it, because economics would tell you that the revenues that the state gets from bear viewing are so much greater than hunting. I mean, at some point, economics will dictate that, but at some point that could be after the bears are gone. So,
yeah.
Well, thank you. Not great news, but thank you. And thank you for the suggestions too. We'll all figure out what we can do about that.
I think one thing is I think a lot of people are just worried about who's going to vote for them, so that sort of dictates how they're going to manage I think that's a really big deal. If you think the hunters have more votes than the bear viewers, they're going to go for the hunters. I hate to say it. And they're going to funnel the money in federal dollars to, exploitive, different things that exploit the environment. So anyway, that's the way it sort of goes. Thank you for your question.
Thank you, Bob. Thank you, Derek. Elizabeth, then Janice, then Lori.
Wow, that was kind of depressing. I'm a member of Wake Audubon, and I know they're watching the movement further north or further south of birds, and I think we're doing it nationally, and they are excellent with what they call fast action. So I get notices all the time. I've done a lot for Bristol Bay, not with Wake, but with the Bristol Bay people, of sending in letters that are pre-written, and then you can modify them. And that helps activate and increase the number of people who respond to these calls for action. My question has nothing to do with that. My question goes back to the individual bear. And, you had so many great stories, about all of these bears. And of course, I'm going to forget their names because I'm trying to remember them right now. But I was wondering which bear seemed to have the most impact on you in your career of watching these really interesting mother bears and the gigantic bears. There was one bear that reminded us of Otis. My book is all marked up. I just can't, because I'm trying to look for it, I can't find it. But there were so many nice stories about, Solstice was one bear. And then there was another bear. You guys help me out there. But I was wondering, which one impacted you, or do you remember the best, or did you love the best? And what was it about that bear that just made you excited or value it or acknowledge it?
Well, I think everybody's favorite bear was Teddy. That was Larry's favorite bear, and she always had a special place, and she was very tolerant of people at McNeil, and she would come sit down next to everybody. She never bothered anybody, but she was, she liked to hang out around you, and she'd bring her cubs by, and she disappeared. I can't remember when Larry left McNeil or Teddy. I don't know who left first, but she would have been in her 20s. But here's a deal. We know for a fact that brown bears will live to be in their mid 30s. And a lot of times when they're die, if you look through the harvest reports, there's a lot of bears in there that are 25, 26, 27 years old. They're not dying of old age. They're dying as part of the harvest of bears. But Teddy was, Larry just loved her. He has stories of her, but her putting her head in a cabin and stuff like that. And he had a big picture of her on his wall, and she was always the prime bear. But she left there, and we went north of there, where I go about 8 or 10 miles north of there, and a bear that looked exactly like Teddy. I don't know whether it was Teddy or not, but it sure looked like Teddy to me, and I have lots of pictures of her. She moved up there and was there for probably the next 4 or 5 summers, which would have put her, up around 30 years old, and who knows what happened to her then. But we'll never know whether it was really the same bear, because she wasn't marked or anything like that. And Larry would have recognized her, but he never came up. So it's sort of interesting that she might have changed her range. And bears have been known to do that with marked bears. So she was obviously the favorite. And now we've got one up there. It's named Gwen, and she's just very tolerant and likes people and brings the cubs up around you and eats fish in front of you. And she seems to be happy hanging out around people. And it's not that way for everyone. And then, the big males are the characters. And, Wolfie, the one in my book, he was really a fine bear, and he's never, he was never really super tolerant. He didn't want to come hang out around you. And most big males don't want to do that at all. Sometimes they're even intolerant of you. And every once in a while they scare the hell out of you. So, but, I guess Teddy and Gwen and the females are the ones you tend to like the most, because they're the most tolerant with you. And if you just sit still, they'll come up. They're very curious, and they'll look around at you. So, and the best thing to do, the best way to avoid getting in a confrontation with them is to let them get used to you. So we do it. And little known fact, at McNeil, we used to purposefully habituate the cubs there. When we see the cubs in the springtime, we'd go out and maybe spend 15, 20 minutes with them, and figure their mother would bring them around, and figure that's just enough for them for that day. And then just increase the time. And then the next thing they're hanging out around you, and they're very tolerant of you, and they don't pay any attention. So it sounds like the wrong thing to do, but I think in the long run, if you're going to have a bear viewing area like McNeil, I think it's the way to go about it.
And there's one other
last question, because we have other hands raised. One follow-up, and that's it before we move on to somebody else, please.
I just wanted to know about Sterling, because you had this very iconic sentence at the end. One morning he was gone.
Yeah.
And he seemed like a really interesting bear.
Well, he probably went over to the preserves. It's less than 20 miles over to there, or else he could have gone to Brooks. They've found some bears that, now that they're doing much better photo IDs, and I don't know if anybody's doing facial IDs yet or not, but it was being done in a couple of places. I don't know if I've been out of the loop on that, but that he could have gone to Brooks, and he probably went over the mountain to the preserve, because he was well on his way when he was at Chinook. He just has to go end of the lake, down across a big flat, and then up through the mountains, and he's in the preserve. So it's not really too far. And that's in the book I mentioned that John Berryman and I one time counted 13 bears in that pass, and they were sure going from one side to the other. A lot of bears moved to red salmon because of there's so many of them over coming into Bristol Bay.
I'm glad you asked that question, and I'm glad you answered it that way. I had imagined a very different fate for Sterling. So, thank you for that.
I don't know if he ever came back to, I've never really looked to see if he was in the data sheets from McNeil. I really don't know. He's certainly an easy bear to tell. But we never saw him at McNeil. I never saw him at Two-Tuck Creek. I've never seen him there again. But we don't. But right now, right now we have a phenomenon over there to just show you how things can change. The fisheries management changed, and there's not a buildup of fish. The fishing used to be open 5 days a week and shut on the weekends, and there'd be a buildup of fish over the weekends. And a lot of times it was enough to keep a big male bear out there hanging out and catching fish. And now it's open 24/7, and there's no buildup of fish. They're still getting their escapement, but there's not enough. It's enough for moms and cubs, but it doesn't seem to be enough to keep a big male in that area feeding. They require too much food. They must be over McNeil catching chum salmon, or else going over to over the mountains to the Katmai Preserve, where there's unlimited salmon, and they're big, and there's eggs there's eggs in the females there. They're mature, and where we are, the eggs are not mature. The fish mature in the lake, and that's where the eggs. So the bears aren't fishing for eggs like they do over in Katmai, or in the preserve, and over in that area. They could selectively fish in the spawning beds for female salmon, and female salmon tastes different than male salmon, because they'll grab a male and drop it, and grab a male and drop it, and then get a female and take it over to the bank and eat it. So
we've seen them do that on the cams. That's interesting. A couple more hands raised, Janice and then Lori.
Yeah, Elizabeth asked some of my questions about favorite bear stories. I found your book at our local thrift store, Living with
where did you
Bears.
get? Where did you get that? That's an original.
Oh, so it's really a collector's item then, huh?
Yeah, that's the first edition. This is the second edition.
Ah,
I
I don't know. I found it at Bishop's attic. I
That's
think I
great.
paid $5 for it, but hey, it's an original, I guess. Now I should probably get you to sign it.
You could. The other one's got statewide stuff in it too. So
yeah. And when you were talking about, the Park Service was asking for data. Well, at Brooks, they had paid somebody to come in, Barry Gilbert. They paid him to come in and do a study about the impact of people on bears, and they totally disregarded they totally disregarded his study. They used the pro fishing and hunting people, or the pro fishermen and the game people, and to justify not moving the camp away from the bears zone where the bears were needing to go. And so I still get skeptical that, I mean, it's good they're asking, but I hope they listen if they get the data that shows that people are impacting the bears' behavior and what's going on. I hope they listen, because they sure didn't listen. From what Barry told us, they didn't listen at all. They didn't cite his study.
they did the same thing. They did the same thing at Hallow Bay. They had 5 of the biggest bear experts in the world at Hallow Bay, made recommendations to the Park Service how it should be managed. This was about 13 years ago. And the Park Service ignored the recommendations, and it was Steve Herrero, the bear attacks guy, and John Shane, and Terry DeBryan was one of the people. And they all said, make trails, don't go over top of the berm where bears can't have a chance to see you, keep on the same paths.
Yeah.
And they never implemented one part of it. Now they're going to try to do it again to make more recommendations down there, but
Well, let's hope they listen this time.
I hope so too. We'll keep trying. All we can do is keep trying.
Yep. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Lori, go ahead. You have a question.
Yeah, in British Columbia, they eliminated trophy hunting for bears.
Yep.
Have you seen any studies on how that's impacted the bear population? I mean, bear viewing is huge there.
That I really don't know, and I should know. And my partner up here, Dave Backrack, he reads scientific journals all day long, and I'm afraid don't do it as much as I should. But that's really, I'd like to know the answers to that, because I know bear viewing's so big down there now too. It's a huge industry, and it should be regulated at the beginning rather than at the end. And I think I wish we didn't have trophy hunting. I just really wish we didn't have trophy hunting, but the bears in the preserve, the last guide that was in there, if you wanted to go with him and shoot a big bear, which I guess is 10 years old or a little bit more, $45,000. So, and there's, you know, you could see what his gross is going to be for a 2-week season. And he's allowed to, I forget what they're allowed to take out of there right now. It's either 12 or 18 in each season. So it's a big deal. And they just shoot the bears right on the creeks. And in the spring, it's a little bit, they have to travel a little bit more, but no, I think that's great, but I don't have an answer for your question. I wish I did.
You mentioned something about the bears going over the pass, and the salmon are running, different species of salmon are running in a stream somewhere else. And I'm wondering how much the bear's sense of smell guides them. There's times when I've been fishing and I'm on a certain lake or a certain stream and it just smells fishy. It just has that fishy odor. And I wonder, with the bear's incredible sense of smell, could they smell the salmon coming into these rivers from a long distance away? The winds are right.
I don't know the answer to that either, but you'd think that a lot of it would just be their sort of creatures of habit, and it may just be as a one food source sort of peters out, they move from that food source. Because like McNeil, when the chum run stops or slows down there a lot, the bears increase exponentially in the Katmai Preserve and over in that area. So, and maybe a lot of them leave Brooks and they go up to the Salmonovsky rivers and the rivers around Brooks because the salmon are spawning there, and they're not moving between the lakes at Brooks, so they're easier to catch somewhere else, and they're certainly there because the fish will stay into September and through August in a lot of those places. But I don't. Well, I think they could smell really, really, really well, but I don't know if they're moving to the thing. One thing I don't have in my book is much about scent communication because I don't really know that much about it. And there's a lot of graduate students and stuff that are doing incredibly interesting things with that. And there's a lot of things probably that I know there's lots of things I see, which I can't really explain. And I think that it has to do with scent communication. But when you figure the capabilities of what a bear can smell, the inside of its nose and everything, there's just a lot going on.
We are running out of time. Lori, do you have one last question before a couple of questions, one other question for Derek?
Yeah, real quick. Do you have any thoughts on Timothy Treadwell?
I knew Timothy. I got some letters from upstairs. He used to call me up all the time. It's just a tragedy. And I don't know if I put that in my book, but my friend Chris Day, who's in the book, she said, Timothy did things that we all could do, but have chosen not to. And I think that's about the best. He was a super nice person. And I did a film with him. He did a film for Audubon one time. He came in with Joel Bennett to McNeil, and I spent about a week with him. It's just so sad. He just did things that just shouldn't be done. It just wasn't fair to the bears. And his camping place at Hallow Bay was another disaster waiting to happen. He just was right up against the brush. And if you camp, you should always camp in a spot where the bears have a chance to see you before they walk into your tent. And he didn't do that. And it's just a horrible, horrible, horrible thing. And I guess things like that happen if you behave like that. And I guess it could happen to most anybody, but we always used to say, maybe the Charles Manson of bears is wandering around out there. And it could be. They certainly have different personalities. 2 years ago, it's been 2 years. There's a pilot that we all fly with named Jose de Kreft, and he dropped some people off at Chinook Lake, and he wandered down the beach just about 50 feet from his airplane. And turned out there was a great big bear and a female had been sleeping in the alders. And we had seen those two bears around for 2 weeks. And the male was always scared of us and always gave us wide berth. And Jose walked down the beach opposite to where they were asleep, and the big bear got up and was very interested in having Jose go back to his airplane. And Jose got back to his airplane, backing up as fast as he could. He'd been around bears for years and years and years and years, but he'd never been threatened like that before. And that bear had never did anything to us ever before, but he evidently surprised him. The bear was in the alders and came out on the lakeshore and thought that he would make Jose move, and he got back to his airplane and it was fine. The bear stopped. But for a while, Jose said it was sort of tense about what the big bear was going to do. And the female moved off. She didn't pay any attention to either one of them. But that bear, this is this odd that bear had been around for 2 weeks before and kept great distance from us, would look at us and move off in another direction. And then when it woke up, must have got out of the wrong side of bed or something. But no, it was just a surprise for it, I guess. And he was a big bear, a really big old timer. So just interesting. One more story.
Thank you for that story. Derek, I know you have some books at hand.
Oh, I just bought a couple of them, and you know, the one's the Terry DeBryan book. If you want anything about black bears, and Terry's just a wonderful, wonderful person, and somebody's from Michigan. He's somewhere up on the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, and I don't know where he is exactly. He's hard to communicate with. That's great. And this is a really great book. This is my favorite bear book, and she's died 2 years ago, and it's just a tragedy. She was going to help me edit my book, and my book is sitting on her computer wherever I've took her out, and she's just like a horrible, horrible loss to everybody. That's one book to read if you want to read a book about bears. That's a good one. And then you got The Sacred Paw, and I guess that's about all I bought. And the video, if you want to see the video, you have to remember this video is 1993, so it's sort of old, and it was taken with a Betacam, but it's on the International Bear Association website. It's on Facebook, and you could not Facebook, YouTube. It's on YouTube. It comes up on that, and take it with a grain. You don't have to take it with a grain of salt, but some of the pictures in it are, you just have to figure it was taken with old time photography equipment. And the two sites that have that I wrote them down here. I thought I did. I did. What is it? The bear. I thought I wrote it down. I guess I didn't. Oh no, it's on Silo Tips. It's Silo SILO research documents. It's on there, and then it's on another site called the PDF Room, which I guess if you're into science, they're both there. But the Silo Tips, I've never even heard of it before. It's just SI, but the PDF Room, it's on both of them. You can download it through there. And if anybody was dying, I have old copies of the old draft of this. I don't hardly have any of these new ones, but if you just email me your thing, I think I have a bunch of them. I'd be happy to mail you one. So if you want one, you've been such a good audience. I hope it didn't drone on too much.
We could listen to you forever, I think, but we won't. I want to take a few minutes just to do something that we did with Jeff Fair when we met with him. And I kind of set this up last week. So we have read, this is going to be a question for the group. So we have read so far Mike Fitz's book on the Bears of Brooks Falls. Our second book was indeed Dominion of Bears by Sherry Simpson. We read Barry Gilbert's One of Us, and we have read Jeff Fair's In Wild Trust. And we also read the Elephant book about animal emotions. And my question for the group, no right answers, but where would you kind of situate this book, Watch the Bear? Where does that sit? Where does that fit into our reading for you? Does it remind you of other books? Is it simply, where does this fit with you in our kind of canon of reading? Anybody?
It reminds me more of Mike Fitt's book because it's a combination of science and personal observation and experience with bears, as well as the emphasis on conservation and the preservation of wildlife in a readable fashion.
Conservation, love that word. Kara, go ahead.
Yeah, I loved your book, Derek, because I loved all the bear behavior. It was just fascinating to me because you've had so many wonderful years of observing the bear behavior, and I just appreciated so many of the stories, but just confirming. I mean, yeah, I've been watching the cams for 6 years, but just confirming how bears behave and getting to see it in your book was wonderful. So thank you.
Well, thank you. Nice. It's really nice to hear.
Other thoughts, other comments? Ronnie in chat says that the stories in this book remind her of what she has seen at Brooks Camp. And I think a lot of us thought that. I will say that for me, and I'm not saying this because you mentioned Sherry's book, but for me, of everything we've read, your book fits for me most with Sherry's, because I feel like both you and Sherry kind of shared a lot of factual information about bears, but also use that information to help me, to help convey for me the kind of the essential profound truth about bears, which is so difficult to capture. You know, what you said about, you know, it was a day when nothing special happened, and which totally communicated everything special that happened in that day. Yeah. Cynthia, what do you say? And then Bob.
I think we're all sort of leaning towards the same place. And I do think your book, which was absolutely wonderful, falls for me between Mike Fitz's book and Sherry's book. I feel like the facts were well written. It wasn't too much, you know, it was written so that we wanted to read more. And it wasn't like reading an encyclopedia, because you threw in some actual stories of what was going on. So we wanted to learn, and we wanted to become better supporters of wildlife and conservation. And so I feel like between those two books, yours fell there, and it was perfect for me. So thank you.
No, thank you. Thank you for your comments. I think everybody's comments are nice. Wow.
Bob, did you want to add something? Anybody else?
Well, no, all I wanted to do, yeah, I'd say, you know, Derek, I think, you know, you succeeded in your objective on the book just fine. I mean, making it, you know, an enjoyable general audience, I don't want to say introduction, but a tome on bears. I mean, without going into the scientific weeds, it was terrific. It was enjoyable, and we learned a lot. If I may ask just one quick question, don't know if you can do this or not, but if one wanted to take a multi-day trip, hopefully going out there and walking and camping, and whether out there is, you know, somewhere around McNeil, somewhere around Hello Bay, whatever, are there any people, any good ethical guides that really are advocates for bears that are leading these things, or is it all simply day trips to, you know, to Brooks or wherever? And this is assuming somebody doesn't want to spend the, you know, 10 grand that Bacharach wants for, you know, a week on the boat. But it would be great to be able to go out and walk around camp like you used to. That would be my ideal.
Well, my friend Dave Bacharach, the guy in the book, he did multi-day camping trips, just like you're talking about, in the Katmai Preserve, in a couple places in the preserve until this year. The preserve has got so many people there, and it was that he's not doing it anymore. He's just going to do boat trips. But there was a French person. There may be other people, and if Dave's website is AK Adventures, or Go See Bears, either one, mention my name, tell them that you did a book club deal with me, And I suggested that you get in touch with Dave because he would know the people that are doing that. And he's made there's a guide in there. He's the next guy. He doesn't guide bear hunters anymore. That has a lodge in there, and I don't know if they're doing walking trips out of that. It's next to the preserve, but between the two of but Dave is your best bet because I don't know who's doing the overnight trips anymore, and just but tell him that I suggested that you get in touch with him, and he used to work for IBM a long time ago, so he's about the best internet person that I know. So you'll get a speedy reply from him, and you can look at his website and see what he's offering. And I don't know if the boat trips are probably they're probably prohibitively expensive because
I looked this morning before, and it's basically $9,999 for a week, everything included except for your airfare and your time in Homer. But
there you go.
Yeah.
Ask him if he knows anybody that's doing walking tours. Tell him it's tell me it's too expensive.
Perfect. I'm not going to say that, but I will definitely email him.
That boat with the crew is $7,000 a day that he has to pay.
Yeah,
on top of it all. So yeah, it's all ridiculous. It's just I have my
his
own
target
boat.
audience is a little different than me on that one, but I will definitely take your recommendation, Derek. Thank you so much.
There's other things going on. You can never tell, but if he has your name and knows that you're interested, what the heck? You can never see what comes up. There might be somebody trying to fill a trip or something like that, and you can never tell.
Maybe he needs another dishwasher on the boat. Who knows?
They got Gwen in there that she already has a bear named after her. She's something else. Can you cook chocolate chip cookies?
I can learn anything. That's great, dude.
I see a
Thanks, Derek.
final question from Marcia, and then we will need to turn to the question of holiday cards. So Marcia, one final question for Derek.
Hi, Derek. Loved your book and so grateful that you came and talked to us. It was an excellent session. I always ask this question of the authors. What's next? What's on your to-do list, on your bucket list for the next 5-10 years that you haven't accomplished? Do you want to revisit another book, another movie? Where can we find Derek again in 5-10 years?
Well, I'm going to continue to write, and I'm trying to come up with some ideas right at the moment. I really don't know. I'm going to go skiing this afternoon. No, I really don't know where I'll be. One thing that Dave Backrack, the guy in the book, we're both very interested in conservation of bears in the Katmai Preserve. I think that's one thing I'll remain active in that until try to bring this some kind of fruition. There's a few people that are interested in a marine sanctuary for the McNeil area, which would mean that possibly dealing with a lot of commercial fish efforts in there that haven't been going on because of low fish runs, but just the novelty of having a coastal place where the bears would have, I guess you could say there would be ecosystem management, which really trying to show how important bears are in sort of the ecosystem of a given area. But the idea would be to make a big preserve in there. It would be the only one in Alaska. That's one thing, sort of working on that a little tiny bit. But I'd like to try to write. I'd like to try to write a little bit more about bears, and as things happen and as I see them. And there's a lot of so many interesting people around us sort of write about too that have had something to do with bears. And I'm glad there's a lot of younger people than me. Sometimes I feel really, really old. And there's some people with some new insights, and I think I'll do that. I don't know if I'm going to go to the next International Bear Association conference, which is going to be next fall in Banff. Not Banff, it's going to be in God, I don't know whether it's in Calgary or no, it's going to be in Edmonton, in Edmonton in the fall. And I don't know if I'll go down to that, but you go to those things that are certainly inspirational. You find out what people are doing and what kind of research is is going on, and it's not all cut and dried. There's different people doing different things. So, but there's a lot of young people that are really doing some dynamite research into bears, and it's not necessarily having to kill the bears or tranquilize them or do anything else like that. It's this hands-off biology.
Well, when you write your next book, or when you do your photography book, please come back and talk to us again.
Okay.
Because we will read it in the Fat Bear Book Club, and we will have lots of questions for you.
Okay. How about a photography book about the behavior of bears? That's what I actually have somebody lined up that I should get in contact with. And Dave Backrack he's got beautiful pictures too. He's going to do a photography book it'll have a lot about behavior, and he's a much better photographer than I am. He has more expensive equipment than me.
We will add both of those to our reading list. Seriously.
We'll even pre-order the copies.
Yeah, right. That would be great. So,
Derek, thank you so much.
I'm always, if anybody has any questions or wants to correspond, I'm just, on the other end of my email. It's Alaska in the wintertime. I have a lot of time when I can correspond. I like to do it. And if anybody does want a copy of Living with Harmony, so I'm going to go up to my shop and look upstairs and see what's there. I have another one that's called Living in Harmony with Moose, which is I really like it. I actually like that better. I actually like it. That was the first one that we did. So that's kicking around somewhere too.
So should people email you then, Derek?
Sure, they're more than welcome to, but just stick a mailing address in there, and
excellent.
I'll see if I can find it. But I love to correspond with people. It's fun. I do it every morning.
And
not on Facebook, but I will be. I have to do a Facebook thing for the book this weekend. So because I have a Facebook page, people cannot believe it, but I don't.
So we should check your Facebook page then for that.
I will have a Facebook page. It should be on Monday. I'm waiting for my granddaughter to get back because she's going to help me do it. So.
Well, I'll send you friend requests.
Okay.
Nareet, one last question.
I just wondered do we have Derek's email? I would love to have it. I don't have it.
It's D, and then it's the name of the book, Stonorov at email.com.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
That's all there is to it. Yeah, just fire it to me and I'll see what I hope I have some more a bunch of copies of that too. But I'm pretty sure that I still do. It's just that it's out of print. But it's good if it's better if they go to good homes than being in the top part of my shop.
It won't be Janice's first edition, but we will enjoy it nonetheless.
Yeah, it will be the first edition. It doesn't have the accounts of the bear accounts for the state of Alaska in the back of it were written by different biologists. But that's on those two sites I give, the PDF forum and the silo tips. Those pages are on that copy that they have there.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, thank you again, and thank you. Thank you everybody for coming. And Derek, thank you so much. It has been just an honor and a delight to chat with you. And we do hope
you have the best questions and the nicest compliments that I've had. So that's great.
All very well earned. Anybody who wants to stick around for a brief discussion of holiday cards, please stick around. If you're not in the holiday card game, then we will say goodbye to you. Derek, thank you so much again, and we hope to
thank you all. Thank you all. You
guys
are a great audience or great participants.
Thank you.
So much.
Enjoy your skiing.
I sure will. I mean, the bears are all asleep, but I go out where the bears are, so that's sort of good. Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right, holiday cards.
Except I'm still on.
Oh yeah. So yeah. Oh, and now I think we lost him. Goodbye again, Derek. All right. I think everybody here.
Great session, Stacy, by the way. Thank you very much.
Fascinating. Oh my God. I wish we'd had more time.
Yeah, but you did a great job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah,
You're
great at
You
this.
always are great.
Maybe we can convince him to join the book club for the next book.
I would love that. That's a great idea, Lori.
Yeah.
He had warned me in advance that he gets tired after an hour, so I did try to kind of move things along. But I also knew that he had a stack of books that he brought, so I'm really glad that he had a chance to recommend them. And you know, that feedback to him at the end, that meant a lot to Jeff. So I thought it would be a nice thing to do for Derek as well, and I'm glad we did. So we'll do more of a debrief next time, I guess, but I do want to chat about holiday cards. I have sent you all like 3 or 4 emails about holiday cards today, and I didn't want to send, I would have had to send at least 2 more, and I'm trying to avoid that. So thank you for sticking around. I thought what we could do, Carolyn has been working on this list all day. She's made some changes and additions. I'm wondering if, but I fear that it might not be complete quite yet. So I thought what I would do is show the current version of the list. And if you can all look at it and make sure that you are represented in the way that you want to be represented, that will eliminate a couple of rounds of emails. So let me share my screen.
So we don't have the final list yet, is what you're saying.
You have 2 different versions of a list and they're both incorrect. So I'm going to share the 3rd version of the list.
Okay.
And hope that it is closer. Poor Carolyn. And yes, and some people have no lists. Yes, so.
And some people have sent out their cards already. Some
yes,
very important people. Not me.
Let me share my screen. And Betsy, I don't think it's too far off. It's just that I think there's a couple of email addresses that needed to be updated. And there's a couple people who aren't on it. So fret not if you have already sent them out. But you may need to do a couple of additions. All right. So you probably don't want to see my email. Oh, no, you don't want to see my email. Here it is, though. There. Now, are you looking at Carolyn's list? Are you seeing Carolyn's?
Yes, you can, but it's so small you can't read.
Yep, I'll get there.
But I wouldn't be able to tell what I have versus what's on this list. Oh, I guess I don't need to. Just look at my own address, right?
Correct.
Mine's fine.
Yeah.
All right.
Mine is fine. I asked for correction. It's there.
All right. If yours is fine, then you may feel free to leave this meeting.
Mine's wrong. Mine is wrong.
Okay. And let's just take it one person at a time. So let me tell you what I'd like you to do. So please look at your name on this list. I apologize for the size. I'll see if I can figure out how to make it bigger. In the meantime, if you can see your name and if you think it looks great, I heard Naomi say that her name is correct. I heard Narit say that your name is correct. If your name is Bob, your name is correct. If everything looks good for you, yeah, give me a thumbs up and then say good night, and I'll see you on January 13th. And follow up with an email.
Cynthia's good.
Excellent, thank you. If you think that there is a problem with your name, or if you're not on the list and you want to be on the list, please stick around for a minute.
Yeah.
And I will.
Holidays. Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye. My apartment number is incorrect.
Elizabeth, are you not apartment 202?
No, I'm 102.
102. Elizabeth, 102. Okay,
Right.
I will ask Carolyn to make that change. Any other corrections? Tia, I think you are not on this list. Do you want to be on the list?
Yeah, is it too late to join?
No, not at all.
Okay, great.
I'm gonna send you an email right after this meeting, and you could email me your information right away, and
I'll do it right away.
Carolyn, okay?
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Sure. Janice,
Yeah, mine's good.
Okay,
It's
excellent.
there now, so it's good.
Okay, Marcia, Lori,
Mine is good. Mine is correct.
excellent. Marcia,
Mine is good.
excellent. Pat, I think yours has been updated. Does yours look good now?
Yeah, looks fine.
Excellent. Betsy, is your information good? Oh, and I think that you are having, yeah, so I'm going to stop sharing so I can see what you're writing in chat. Betsy, did your information look good? Oh, your information is good. Excellent. Happy holidays to you. Elizabeth, did you have another question?
Yes, I can't read it. It's too small for me. It should say 3311 Cotton Mill Drive. Is that what it says?
Yep, apartment 202, which we are changing to 102, correct?
Right. And it's
Okay.
27612.
Yep, that's good. So you're all set then.
Okay.
Lori, I think everybody who's here is all set. Is that correct? Excellent. Then I will send these changes to Carolyn. I'll ask her to update the doc. We'll get it out tonight or tomorrow. Okay, great. Thanks, everybody. Have a
Bye,
good night.
everyone.